Hello everybody, this is Sequence Break, episode 17, Epic Neon Ninja Monkey. Did I get all the names right, Epic?
I think so. I think you're good.
Here he is, Epic Neon Ninja Monkey. Before we get started, dude, how did you come up with that name? That name has so many words in it.
It's honestly, it's just a random assortment of things I like. I love neon colors on black backgrounds, like neon green and neon pink, and some of those colors that pop a lot. They just look really cool.
Absolutely.
So I like those. And I mean, what kid from the 90s doesn't like ninjas? Monkeys are clearly my favorite animal. I've always loved monkeys. I'm sure you figured that out last night.
Yeah.
Mega Man Legends. And then epic is just a word that's descriptive that I figured I'd just throw that on the front. Why not?
Well, when we met, I also had to ask which one do I refer to you by, and you were totally down with any one of those. So I thought that was really cool because it's a lot to say if you're talking to somebody.
Yeah, I get all sorts of assortments.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for doing this, and I'm glad you're joining us because for everyone out there, Epic Neon Ninja Monkey has suggested a few games that I play and has not missed with how much fun and awesome the games that he's recommended. And I thought, oh man, let's do like a hidden gems type of thing episode because these are most of the games you recommended are not they're not even available in the United States. They're Japanese exclusives, and I just think it's a really cool idea to be experienced. All of us want to play games that we enjoy, maybe games we've never heard of. So that's the kind of the idea for this whole episode. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Oh yeah, no problem. I just happen to have time today.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. It worked out great. Trickyard Dave says, growing up, you always told people your favorite thing was epic also, right? Like epic is just like a word to describe that stuff. So let's take it on back. When did you start playing video games?
So I don't remember like exact age or anything, but I'm the youngest of three boys. So I had two older brothers that grew up, more on NES than I did. So we had an NES when I got to the age of when you would start playing games,
Yeah.
And the Super Nintendo, I don't think was quite out. So I had to be like maybe 5-ish, 4-ish, because I was born in 85, which is when the Nintendo came out. But Super Nintendo is like more, 1990, 91, something like that. So we had an NES already. And I remember my first experiences were like Super Mario Brothers and Zelda 1 and a lot of the, the common games you hear in the NES era. And I remember this memory sitting with my brother, and he was kind of teaching me to play Dragon Warrior 1 because I didn't understand RPGs at the time. I was too young. So he's kind of helping me through and guiding me through and teaching me how it works and how to play it.
I'm not familiar with Dragon Warrior. What game is that? An NES game or?
Yeah, it's an NES RPG. It's actually one of the very early NES RPGs.
Very cool. Were you able to?
A series of, I think, 11 main titles now.
Oh!
Dragon Quest.
Dragon Quest. Yeah, I got it. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Okay, yeah. I was like, I have a couple of Dragon Quest games. I didn't realize it started
Dragon Warrior 8. I think it was 8 was the first one that the States called Dragon Quest.
Oh, interesting. Were you able to beat a game like that early on as a big sprawling RPG?
With a lot of help, I'm pretty sure I was.
Okay.
I mean, I was like 5. What do you understand at 5 with that? Oh, that's cool. And I get to hang out with my brother.
I'm surprised you're playing an RPG at that time. I guess it's probably not reading as much as you are trying to just, fight and do the fights. Yeah, okay.
Enjoying the animations. And Dragon Warrior 1 also had I don't know if you've played it.
Yeah.
But it had the, when you got in a battle, it had a little thing go, and it kind of made a box, and the animation for the enemy and everything comes up with backgrounds.
Nice.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Did you have any experience with, Japanese games or any sort of imported game early on as a kid?
Nope. No, not at all. Nope. None of my friends got Japanese imports. Just normal American kid,
Dude, I never saw one as well. I was like, it was like this mythical. I didn't even know they existed. I didn't realize games could be different in different parts of the world.
Right.
So
just clueless as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, how are we supposed to know? Especially without the internet. We didn't have the internet for a few years, so it's like
right. The internet was pretty new. It was all that dial-up, and you got those AOL CDs every week.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Did you? I mean, I'm sure you did, but did you play Mega Man games and things like that as a kid growing up as well?
I did. Okay, absolutely. It's
so,
one of my favorite series.
Do you remember which one you played first?
I have memories of playing Mega Man 3 and watching The Land Before Time. I don't remember where or when, but I definitely have memories of playing Mega Man 3. And I remember those cats in I think it's Top Man stage that throw the little balls of yarn at you.
Yeah, I think that is Top Man. You're right.
Yeah, and I have definitely have memories of that and having The Land Before Time on in the background with somebody else watching it.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so cool. Did you? So when did you? I assume at some point you get a Super Nintendo and Donkey Kong Country comes up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What was that first experience?
So I remember. I don't know what Christmas it was. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't remember what Christmas it was, but I remember my one side of my family, my grandparents, my mom, and my other grandparents. They all went in on a Super Nintendo for all three of us boys. I don't know how much it cost at the time, but clearly why they all went in on it. It was a new console, and I think we got the All-Stars Mario set when we got it. The bundle.
Yeah, oh, that's a good one.
I think that was the bundle we got. It might have been earlier. I don't remember. Right. But I remember the Christmas opening and being so happy and fighting with my brothers to play it. But
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately I never had one in my family, but anytime you brought any home new consoles, but I had two brothers as well, so similar backgrounds, it's just like everyone wants to play it and now.
Yep, pretty much. It's kind of like those Christmases you remember, you get a new game and the first thing you do, you want to just go play the game, and your parents are kind of fighting to get you to go, shower and get dressed and go somewhere. For the holidays, because we always met up at my grandparents' house for the holidays. And we're just trying to sit here and play games instead.
Right.
The new games.
Why would you want to leave the house? We've got all these games going on. I remember, so I had, obviously my friends had Super Nintendo, so I have a very strong affinity and feeling for Donkey Kong Country, because when that game came out, it didn't feel and look like anything else that I'd ever seen before in gaming. And I'm curious if you had any sort of similar experience. I asked too, because I know you're grinding it as a speedrun right now and really bringing down your time, but I was wondering if you had any early experiences like that with the game.
I definitely played the game on release because I had monkeys. and it looked cool, but I mean, it just looked fun and I played it. I definitely played all three Donkey Kong Country games as a kid a lot. I still have my original carts and everything too. Do you
as a speedrun, do you ever get burned out on it, or because I know you've grinded the game pretty decently, so.
No, I don't. It's too fun. It's way too fun. It's very satisfying.
That's so cool. So tell us a little bit about when you, how did you gateway, or what was your first experience with like speedrunning, and what led you to kind of try one yourself?
So pre-speedrunning, like when we were younger, me and my brother actually used to take turns playing games and seeing who could beat it faster.
Oh man.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Competitive. I've always been competitive. But I remember doing that with Mega Man 2 at some point and a few other games. But even, the first time I remember after that was probably like 2005. I still didn't know speedrunning existed as a kind of esports-ish competitive internet scene. Mm-hmm. And I was bored one day and I sat down and just was like, I wonder how fast I can beat Super Mario Brothers. And so I just started, playing the game, seeing what I could figure out. And I had gotten a time of I think 540. I uploaded a video of it because I found old video footage.
Oh, it's awesome.
When I had a dazzle. poor capture quality. But it was about a 540. I didn't know of speedrunning. I didn't know of any glitches or routes or anything of existence, And I kind of got a 540 just playing the game a few times and messing around.
That's a hell of a time.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Of course, any percent.
Right, totally. So it's interesting you mentioned it. So you weren't actually looking for any strategies or anything like that. You were literally just trying to play through the game it was intended with warps or whatever.
Yeah,
and beat it
I was just playing through the game, seeing how fast of a time I could get in it. Just idea off the top of my head when I was bored one day. Why not?
And so what, how did you finally find like an official speedrunner or have an idea to, Well,
sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, please, go ahead.
So sometime after that, Excuse me. Jeez, oh Pete's. Around, I discovered Games Done Quick, which it wasn't quite called Games Done Quick at the time.
Yeah.
The first few.
Yeah.
But I discovered that and just kind of brushed it off in 2011, 2012, somewhere in that area. I forget exactly before or when, you know. And I just kind of brushed it off like, oh, that's kind of cool. People are breaking games and speedrunning.
Yeah.
But then in 2013, I don't remember how, but I got involved with some YouTubers and some Twitch people because I had a Justin TV account way back when it was Justin TV.
Nice. Under
a different name. This name didn't exist yet. But I had a Justin TV account and I had a YouTube account, and I met some gamers on there somehow and ended up being like, hey, can I race with you guys sometimes? Because they were doing races and they're just, you know, chilling, talking, doing races, recording it, putting it on YouTube. And that was 2012, 2013 area. So eventually I got involved with them. And then one of them was a DKC speedrunner, actually. And he's like, oh, dude, I got this great time in DKC. There's no way you can beat me. And I'm like, oh no. Oh, he didn't. Yeah. So after that, I sat down and was like, okay, DKC, let's just play the game. So I played through the game a few times, you know. My first time, like not knowing any strats, not learning speed strats, was about an hour or 2 minutes, just playing the game casually because I had grown up playing the game a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, that's not so bad. That's not so bad. So I played it again and again and a few more times. And eventually I grinded down and got past his time. And he's like, oh man, what? So he came back and like this went on for, I don't remember how long, but we went back and forth. And eventually with going back and forth, beating each other a bunch of times, we were around the 44 range at that point.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, all right, I'm just going to make him shut up for good. So I started learning speed strats from the wiki, the DKC wiki that was at the time. Because if you don't know, DKC Speedruns actually didn't join speedruns.com until 2019.
Oh, I didn't know that.
All the leaderboards and everything were on the DKC Speedrun wiki.
Yeah.
There was a vote last year if they wanted to join or not, and the community voted to mirror and join the speedruns.com.
Cool.
But so I learned some strats and, you know, just kind of sat down. And it's very easy to practice separate stages in that game because the way it's set up.
Yeah, stage select. And
I got my time down to a 42 or 40, high 41 after all that. And he goes, okay, I'm done. No. So he quit. He gave up. And then I was like, oh man, this is actually really fun. So I just kept doing it and doing it. And this was into 2014. 2013, 2014, somewhere in that range. And I had gotten my time down to a 37:56, I think.
Oh my God.
And at the time, world record was a 34:14 or something like that. So DKC has different eras. Like the wiki even lists all the eras. The first era is J timing, which is technically when I started.
Okay. This
was before they found the some other tricks.
Okay.
Like map warp was banned still.
Oh wow.
Frame perfects were not allowed in J timing because there's 3 versions of DKC, 3 cart revisions.
Oh, interesting.
1.0, 1.1, and 1.2.
I should have 3. Jeez.
In America.
Yeah.
Japanese only got the 1.2 version because it came out in America first. So they got the fixed revisions.
Right. Quote unquote.
So that's why it's called J timing.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
We went by those rules. So then the next era is the 3413 era, which is the era pre-jump super jump rolls, which super jump rolls are a trick mixing a super jump and a frame perfect trick. So in the 3413 era, frame perfect tricks are allowed, which makes the monkey just go continually roll like this in the air straight across the stage. And it's a 1 in 60th input. and it's hard, and I still suck at them, which is I'm trying to do that to push for a 30 sub 35 right now. But yeah, then the eras go on to pre super jump roll, and map warp were allowed, and then there's the current era, which is super jump roll, which the time now is down to 31 something. There's actually just a new map warp found under a month ago as well.
It's I think it's awesome that a community that's been around now for a few years continues to break the game in new ways, and of course more challenging ways. Why not?
Yeah, right.
During this first grind period, was it something where you're looking for strats and things like that, or are you just trying to optimize your gameplay? What's your approach at this point?
I was fairly new to speedrun still, okay. And I was just trying to copy because there's so much documentation on DKC already because of the wiki, and people have gone through tasks in the game. Okay. Tampa is a known tasser. He destroyed DKC with his tasks, and then people found out what tricks are allowed, which ones are RTA viable and all that, which is why the time was so low at the time. And people grinded it down within 10 to 20 seconds of their sum of best.
Oh wow.
And there's not easy tech in DKC.
No, all of it looks really tough.
Yeah. So I just kind of, started following their strats, and that's how I got down to that 37. I'm just like, okay, that's good enough for now. And, 2014, I put the game down, which I put the game down right when map warp was being allowed and when they're starting to find new tricks again. So into a new era is when I put the game down, actually.
Of course.
And then after that, I didn't really pick up any more speed runs. I just kind of played DKC once in a while, messing around. And me and that group of people that I knew on YouTube just kind of raced some games here and there. And I started a spreadsheet, actually, of competitive times with those people of about 50 something different games where I was tracking all of our times.
Yeah.
And, I was dominating it. But none of us were like really speed runners. We were just having fun.
Yeah, it was a fun thing to do. I got to give a quick shout out to Tampa because he's contributed some really awesome SMB3 tasks as well. And the guy, the way that he tasks his games, it just completely destroys him.
Yeah, he's famous for DKC and Link to the Past and a lot of stuff. He's a really good tasser.
He really is. When you're racing your friends and stuff, are you guys doing like no reset races at the same time, or are you guys just comparing times? What's the competition at this point?
We were comparing times, trying to get better times on that spreadsheet, and then we were also at the same time a small community of YouTubers just kind of setting up races, racing in blocks, and then putting it on YouTube.
Nice. It's one of the things okay, so full disclosure, I have watched a lot of EpicNeonNinjaMonkey's speedruns. One, because he runs some of the games I do, but then other also because of how optimized the game control is. Like, I noticed one thing is how meticulous you are about playing the game as best as possible. And a lot of times that's a really good way to bring down a time, is to play the game as best as you can. I assume at this point you're grinding, you're doing all those things. Is that kind of your approach as you're grinding into some of these speedruns?
Yes and no. Okay. It depends on the speedrun.
Yeah.
Like DKC and even Doremi in some of those games, I started out running those games just by playing through the game 5 to 10 times, like having a start bar and kind of just bringing it down by learning playing the game over and over and letting my memory just kind of sink in and learn the levels that way. And then there's other games like Tonma, where I played the game casually blind, beat it, and then I went back and I'm like, okay, what's the speedrun look like? Well, actually, somebody in my chat, Bovine Divine, is like, oh, dude, that looks pretty optimized. I don't think you can beat it. I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah, there it is again.
So with Tanma, I had looked over the speed run. I'm like, I can do that. That's pretty easy. And then I kind of, before even running it, I compared it to the tasks. And then I just kind of messed around to see what I could come up with and combined all those strats to make what you see as a world record now in Tanma.
And that's actually a great segue because it's where I first discovered your runs was with Legend of Heratoma. I had run the game and Enemy had run the game. I think we were the only two people on the leaderboard at the time. But I thought, man, sub 6 is going to be really tough in this game. And all of a sudden, I think that was your first time you even submitted on the game, dude.
It was. I didn't submit anything until I grinded it down. I had played the game blind and then beat it. And then I looked over what world record stretch where I looked at the tasks, and then I kind of played the game some to see what I could make up as viable in my own way. And the way I set that up was I just kind of took them all and combined them together in one big run. And it's like, just like that. First run that I completed, because you know how completed that game is, with the one-hit kills. And first run I completed was sub 6, and then I just kind of pushed it like, that's not good enough, too many mistakes, and pushed it down to that 532. It's still very beatable, don't get me wrong, but
as you say, at least you're not calling it free. But I don't know, it's a pretty damn good time, dude. No, so there's something interesting I noticed too, and I could be wrong, but it seems like most of the games that you've taken up as speedruns, you enjoyed the casual playthrough. Is that part of it? How does that figure into the equation?
Yeah. I always try to play a game casually first. If I haven't played a game casually, I generally won't watch it. I like to go into any game I'm interested in blind.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, I'm looking over your speedrun.com profile here. And first of all, it's super impressive. There's a very wide variety of games, including like Outrun 2, Golf Daisuke. I mean, all these Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. The games don't necessarily follow a pattern of like, Mario games or anything like that.
Right.
So it seems like you enjoy like a variety of games. I'm curious how you find, because there are a fair amount of games that aren't even available here in the States. And I'm curious how you've gone about discovering some of those and what led you to some of those games.
I'm also a game collector. Like if I do this, you can probably see
how look at that. Holy cow.
but yeah, I'm a game collector, and I love to learn about and new games and collect games and play new games, new experiences, which is why I like playing them blind. I love the blind experience of you go into a game not knowing what to expect, and you just kind of play the game and you're like, that's interesting. These games are developed and programmed in a way generally where you slowly figure out what you're doing and what's happening. Like you in Swords and Wizards and Warriors the other day, these games are designed in a way where you play the game, you're like, what the hell is going on? And then you're kind of like, oh, okay. All right, this and this. And you kind of start to understand things and you progress. And you feel great about your progression, And I love that blind experience. I really do.
Well, for whatever reason, you've really nailed it with the games that you've recommended to me. And I think the first one that I can remember is Fushigi no Yumi no Alice. And it's a game on the TurboGrafx or the PC Engine, I guess it would be, because it only came out in Japan. Tell me a little bit about it. What do you like? What kind of game is it, and what do you like about it?
Fushigi no Yume no Alice, or Alice in Wonder Dream, I think is the translation. I actually 2015, I had no idea about the TurboGrafx or PC Engine growing up. I had no idea that thing existed.
It's a real console, I promise you. No, just kidding.
It is. I have one now. And then 2015, I was like, I think it's 2015-ish, I discovered Yeast books from watching YouTube, and I was like, the game looks really good. So I booted up an emulator and played Yeast books 1 and 2, and then I played Rondo of Blood, and I was like, man, this console might have something behind it, And then I just kind of brushed it off for a while and didn't bother doing anything with it.
Right.
And then late 2018, I was like, oh, look, a TurboGrafx for sale locally. So I ended up buying it, getting the DB booster for RGB, because I had a FrameMeister and all that already. And then putting up with the TurboGrafx controller, because the D-pad drives me nuts.
It's really bad.
And so I'd start to explore the TurboGrafx library a little bit. And then I started doing streams with an EverDrive. I, of course, got an EverDrive first, because games are expensive.
Dude, it's not a cheap console to own games for.
No. And so I got an EverDrive and I started doing streams where people could pick games. I played a lot of good games, bad games, and all of the above. And then I started researching a little bit more after learning about some of the library, like what else can I find? And I came across this Alice game. I'm like, movement in that kind of looks fun. It looks like a decent game. So I sat down and played it blind and beat it within a few hours. I think it's like 3-4 hours.
That's a better time than it took me, as you know.
And I restarted many times because there's not unlimited continues.
Not at all. Although even when I cheated, I used the cheat code to get more continues. I still couldn't beat the game. It took me so long.
So I had played through that blind. I'm like, this movement is actually like, she's a bit slippery. She moves fast, but it's pretty good movement for a game. So I had grinded it. I didn't grind it down or anything. I played it a few more times. And then I started routing it a little bit. And after routing it, I was like, all right, let's try a run. And I got, I think, an 18 or 19 minute time. I'm like, there's got to be more improvement for that. So I kind of looked over it again. I realized there was no task. I had tried to look. But I looked over the game, my previous run. I'm like, okay, noticing small things here and there. Kind of took notes on my Notepad Plus in areas and kind of routed the game again, and I got it down to I think around 17. And then while I was playing that time, I accidentally jumped off. Like I looked at a ladder. I go, wait a minute, I know how Mega Man games work. You can do things with ladders in certain games, either Mega Man or other games with ladders. So I'm like, what can I do with this ladders? And I realized you could let go. Well, ladders, as you know, work really weird in that game.
They do, yes.
I let go of the D-pad, jump, and then hit the D-pad again every time I do it in a fast kind of roll motion. And so I realized you could do ladder tech, and I'm like, okay, that's like Do Re Mi. I can do that. Because if you don't know, with Do Re Mi Fantasy, ladder tech is a real thing. You can make fake ladders and jump off of them. You can in Do Re Mi, you may not notice it, but anytime I climb up a ladder fast, I'm rolling my finger over up and A again as I climb the ladder to break the ladder.
Oh, no way.
To pre-break the ladder so I can make another.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And that's some of the ladder tech in Do Re Mi. You pre-break ladders so you can make another ladder to the next area when you need to faster. So you kind of jump, roll over to A and up, jump again, and get up the ladder. And that's some of the tech. And then you can make ladders. Like, do you have the ladder ability where you are in Do Re Mi? I don't think you do you?
No, not yet. No.
So the ladder in Do Re Mi is also supposed to connect to something above it. If you notice, like it's supposed to connect.
Yeah, of course.
If it doesn't, it will break almost instantly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So some of the ladder tech, if there's nothing above you, you can make a ladder and you can jump high enough off of it to get extra height and make a jump that you couldn't normally. And it's not there right now, the run. I don't know if it's crossed over the Sun Moon boss in the lava world, but I incorporated that technique to hit the Sun Moon boss because he's too high up in the air. Yeah. You can't hit him with a jump. So I incorporated that ladder tech to jump off of the ladder and then shoot him and get extra hits on him. And it saved quite a bit of time. I mean, other tech in that game is just movement and making cycles, really, but boots, lots and lots of boots.
It's cool that I think it's great that you're seeing similarities between things that you learn in another game can cross over, and while it's not the same thing, you can apply some similar concepts to trying things. Like, it's interesting ladder tech, you mentioned that thing, because there's a lot of games even back in the NES era and stuff where ladder tech is a real thing, especially if you're speedrunning things where you're trying to find new and interesting ways to destroy the game, basically break it apart.
Right. Yeah, you'll notice if you've ever played Mega Man 9, they try to avoid ladders and they use one of the attacks that kind of winds you up the wall.
Okay.
Fast. And any Mega Man game you see, they jump off of ladders if they're going down. It's just simple things that make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Super Mario Brothers 2 here in the US, there were certain, especially for the speedrun, you have to learn how to jump on and off ladders on a fair amount of
stages. Those ladders and vines are, I swear, they have grease all the way up and down them. I'm telling you.
They have to.
They're so slippery.
It cracks me up how the best of the world of that game still get broken by vines and ladders. Okay, so I excuse me. There's a couple things I really. So first of all, I always when I some of these import games, like we'll look at Alice for a moment. I'm curious, like why didn't we get that game in the States? It's kind of obvious with TurboGrafx-16 is that a lot of the console wasn't very popular, so they just there wasn't a market to bring those games over. But the TurboGrafx-16 does have some really great platformers, Legend of Hirotoma and Alice in Wonder Dream, two great examples. Do-Re-Mi is just kind of or Do-Re-Mi. I can't even say it sometimes. Fantasy is a game that I'm surprised we didn't get here in the States, because it's got everything going for it. It's like it's got wonderful levels. It's got this really great fantasy. It's a little bit RPG elements with power-ups and things like that. Everything about the soundtrack is just wonderful. I'm curious if you have any thoughts or wonder like why a game like that didn't come to the States.
I'm not sure why it didn't come to the States, because we got Milan's Secret Castle. Maybe because everybody hated that game. I don't know. I don't hate that game, but everybody else seems to.
No.
We did. Do-Re-Mi actually did come to the States in one form, and that was Wii's Virtual Console. We got a version of it.
Oh, okay.
But
nice.
we did get on Wii's Virtual Console. But Super Nintendo era, we didn't. And some of that may be because they didn't see fit for it.
Right.
Or it could be because the Super Nintendo in North America didn't live as long as it did in Japan.
Oh, interesting.
Japan has Super Famicom releases all the way up to 2000, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like this Do-Re-Mi is 96, I think. Gunpul is 97, if I recall.
So going on in a cycle. How much, as a collector, I always find the collecting stuff kind of interesting. Are those the games that you have? Are they expensive to bring over? What's kind of like the process of bringing a game to the States like Do-Re-Mi?
Money.
That's all it takes. Huh? Pretty simple.
I actually got Do-Re-Mi when it was cheaper now than it is now, but I mean, your only options for imports are really the internet or knowing somebody over there. Like I know a guy in our little retro community that me and a few people started.
Cool.
That he's willing to hunt down games and kind of help you find a better price than scalpers on eBay will give you.
From what I understand, in my chat, Team Murdoch has helped out quite a bit. There are retro stores in Japan and different areas, and you can go find some of these games actually in stores there.
I have no idea. I've never been there.
Yeah. Love to go, right?
Right.
Okay, so that kind of leads to this game that I just recently played thanks to your recommendation. And I was just going to put a few minutes into it. I ended up beating the game in just 2 days and probably could have finished it in one setting had I had a little more time. And that's Gunpul Gunman's Proof. What is this game and how the hell did you discover this one?
Again, from research and just loving to learn about games, new games and everything. So Do-Re-Mi and Gunpul kind of has similar to same backstory with me. Whereas I didn't mention this before, but me and I don't know if you know Super Scudge.
No.
He's a Link to the Past runner. He runs around, I think, a 25, 26, no major glitches.
Oh, wow. It's a good time.
He's been to GDQ on stage and everything. I think he had a race with Andy. But he's somebody I've known on Twitch since 2012 or 2013 as well. And so I was like, hey, are you interested in blind races? And, he's like, yeah, we can do that, And the first one we did was Do-Re-Mi. And we both finished about 4 hours. He actually ran, if you look at Do-Re-Mi's leaderboard, he did run Do-Re-Mi for a bit too.
Yeah, he's on there.
And then the next one, like, I know he likes Link to the Past. So I was like, so I found a game like Link to the Past. You'll probably win this, but do you want to blind race this? So we blind raced that, the translation of Gunpul. And then I ended up running it, but he ended up having some real life things come up. So he hasn't streamed really much since that time period. Another game we raced was actually Violinist of Hemel, which is a Super Famicom release also. It's really cool. It's kind of a platformer ish thing. And you get these suits that you use in each stage that have different abilities. It's pretty neat. It's not something I have interest in speedrunning, but it's a neat game it's for sure worth checking out in my opinion.
One of the things I'm hearing as kind of that's similar in all these is doing this with friends, and that's how you kind of discover. Like you have to share these things with other people to find some new things. I'm looking up the Gunpole leaderboard. I was actually watching some of the runs yesterday for it, and there's actually a leaderboard for this game.
Yeah.
There's actually 21 people on the leaderboard right now, and I think it's really a testament to the game, because while it may look like a Link to the Past on the surface, or a Link to the Past with guns, it's actually got some really interesting things going on in it. And after watching your run all the way through, I'm curious, were you taking a predefined route? Like, had you seen somebody else's route, or were you routing it yourself? Because that seems like there's some interesting stuff happening there.
So with that, I didn't originally, after our race, I didn't plan on speedrunning that game, actually. But
you only did like 17 attempts, so
I was doing something called retro achievements.
Oh yeah.
Which, I'm sure you know what that is by
Absolutely.
now. And the gunpole, some of the gunpole ones were to S rank all of the dungeons. I was like, well, I accidentally learned the speed run anyways. Let's just do it. Why not? So
perfect.
So I sat down and looked at the route, took notes on my Notepad Plus like I do. Followed those notes my first run, and then I have a pretty good memory. So second run, I'm like, okay, no notes, let's do it. So a second run, I just went. It's pretty easy to learn too. But so second run, I went through the game and just did it a few more times, and my goal was a sub hour, and I got a sub hour. I still want to drop it more, but not right now.
Yeah, I mean, watching the run, there's obviously when you die a couple times, so it's obvious there's some of it's on purpose, actually.
Yeah, death warps.
Yeah, the death warps, which I thought was a really smart idea.
Yeah, actually, that death warp from Dungeon 3 only saves about 8 to 10 seconds, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still 8 to 10 seconds. The other thing I liked about it, too, was while the game is fairly linear, like you have to beat one stage after the other and all that stuff, there are some interesting things you can do on how you get to the stages, and when you're in there, what rooms you could take. And I thought that it's always nice when a game has some creativity or offers something than just a predefined route that you can go through.
Yeah, for sure. The the run actually, like the way the game works, like you played through it recently.
Yeah.
The way the game works, it's actually very accepting to optimizing your movement.
Totally.
And with the strafe and the duck and all that, and you get a one up you get a life after every boss you beat. So in Dungeon 3, you notice if we die before that, okay,
right.
If we don't, we just have to know our life count, and you want to be at 0 lives by the time you beat the boss. And so you can die outside.
Which is really cool. Offers a lot of flexibility. It offers some flexibility getting through it.
Yeah, the movement is really fun, the way you can strafe, and it just really adds to it. It's like a much easier version of Link to the Past that's completely different somehow.
It really is. And it's got like a lot of the games so far that we've already talked about. The soundtrack I really enjoyed as well. Some of the tunes are kind of forgettable, but some of them are really memorable that I found myself like humming and whistling after I was done playing the game, Some of them are very good ambient tunes. There you go.
That just are kind of there, and they sound good. And then other ones like the boss theme is just like, all right, let's go.
The one thing I found that was kind of comical or really silly about the game was, I guess a Japanese perspective on our Old West, because there are some tropes in it and things that are just a little bit bizarre for me. Like at one point, your dad like beats you up, kind of thing. So I'm like,
3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. You're like, what the hell's going on with this and everything? So. But
for sure.
It's still I had so much. It's one of the most enjoyable like casual playthroughs I've had of a game, and so I'm glad you recommended it. It was really great. I'm looking over your profile, and there's some interesting games in here too. So I know recently, I guess it was a few months ago now, but you were on the Darkwing Duck grind.
That's a game.
What the hell are you thinking, dude? Picking up that game for a speedrun?
So somebody I know, Sir HC, man. Good guy, great streamer. Check him out. He does a lot of variety. He's not a speedrunner, but he's been trying to get somebody to do that forever. And during one of my TurboGrafx pick a game things, he's like, "Hey, play this." And I was like, "Okay." So I sat down and played it. During that for 15 minutes. That's all he gets. And then, after that, I was like, just sitting by myself after, days or whatever after I'm like, and I just started playing. I'm like, why not? So then I started routing it and figuring out boss strats. And I actually figured out a quick kill for all of the bosses except for the end boss, where you can get hit, you can get stuck in their hitbox. and just completely destroy them, except for the first boss. His strat is I had to look it up in Test Studios how to do it.
Oh,
there's no test for that game either.
Shock.
I couldn't figure out why the quick kill would or wouldn't work on the first boss, and I did some testing in Test Studio. So the first boss is simple. If you hit the jump button for 3 or frames or less, you quick kill the boss. If you hit it for 4, he has 1 hit point left. You hit it for 5 frames, he has 2 hit points left. I was like, what?
That is such that mechanic is dumb. I'm sorry. What kind of sense does that make?
It doesn't.
But it's, okay, first of all, I'm not surprised nobody has done a task for it, but I don't even know how you got past the first level. Just it's so frustrating just trying to control Darkwing Duck in the game. So at least that was my experience with it.
Just hold right and jump when you need to. That's all you gotta do.
You make
run through things.
What's that?
You just pretty much run through a bunch of stuff.
Dave says, yeah, but that whole game doesn't make sense. Not just that mechanic. Well, that's a good point.
Look, that game has built-in input lag. You press jump and you jump about a second later.
That's
Can't
like a feature
for that.
Oh, it sounds so awful. Oh my god. So I'm always curious and stuff like this. Of all the, I mean, I think I could probably guess at this point through our conversation, but of all of the games that you've speedrun, and you've got quite a list here, do you find one that you've enjoyed more than the others, or have one that you keep on coming back to, kind of thing?
Yes. Like I said, I did DKC and put it down in 2014, and of course returned to it in 2019, late 2019 to current, which I'm trying to sub 35. But something about DKC, the mechanics, the rolls, the technique is just so, it's such a pretty run, and it's very, very satisfying to pull off and do. But it's so easy to mess up too.
It's definitely, especially to be competitive in the game, you got to be able to do all of that stuff at a high level.
Well, there's no RNG in that game either. It is all right. Execution, the entire game.
That seems like right up your alley, especially seeing the way that you speedrun games. Right. Stormcrow asks, could you have Epic explain his obsession with the Y button?
Frame perfect inputs. That's why. Get it? That's why. See what I did there?
Hey, yo. Quick question, because you mentioned that you did put down Donkey Kong for like years. What made you go back? Like, what made you try to pick it up again?
New strats, and I wasn't happy with that 3750. Like, even within the first few times of running it, I got my time down in 36 and 35. Wow. And then I messed up a run and did terribly and got the frame perfect, one of the frame perfect tricks that saves a minute and 20 seconds, and got a PB of 35. And I was like, oh, why? Why does that have to be in my PB? That's that frame perfect is 26 minutes into the run. And it's a frame perfect input at 60 frames per second.
I was watching your was it last night or whenever the last time you were streaming Donkey Kong, and I was like, that's painful. That's absolutely painful to have that trick come at that point in the run.
Oh, in the record, there's actually 6 of them throughout the entire run.
How many attempts did it take for him to get those in there? Like, it had to have taken tons.
I don't even know.
That's so crazy. So unforgiving. So what's next? I mean, that's like, that's the $1 million question. What are there any projects you have or that you'd like to take on, or just play? What's next for you?
Well, I have a large list of games I plan to run. Getting to them is another story. But right now I'm going for the sub 35 in DKC.
Cool.
After that, I plan to move to NES speedruns for a bit and jump around here and there. I have a secret NES game that I'm going to run that nobody knows. Yes, Golf Daisuke will be a thing at some point.
That's right, Dave. Now, keep it a secret. That's cool. I mean, do you plan to stream it, or are you going to play it offline and then?
Oh yeah, I will.
Okay,
I will. I've beaten the game before. I'm going to route it offline after I'm done being obsessed with DKC some more. And then I'll run it. Nobody knows what the game is. It's an NES game. That's all I'm going to say.
I love the tease, man. I'm glad you mentioned Golf Daisuke, Dave, because I speedrun Power Golf, and golf games actually do off. They can be a really challenging speedrun. I don't know if Daisuke is the same way.
That's a putt-putt game with RNG. The holes move.
What? While you play it?
Every time you play it, the hole's in a different spot. There's like 3 or 4 different spots the hole can be in. And there's a mole hole, like one of the shortcuts in one of the stages. There's a mole hole you have to shoot around a wall into. And that moves. So sometimes you can't hit it. Or no, that doesn't move. Your starting position moves. It can rain randomly on you, which makes everything much harder. And there's some strats you can't do in the rain. You should try it. It's a blast.
It sounds really fun.
It actually is.
The more golf games I play, the more I find it fascinating what they do to try to make themselves unique compared to other golf games. And so like power golf, the wind changes on every single shot, which by the way is a stupid mechanic. But but the fact that happens, like they're trying to differentiate themselves. I like to hear that this is RNG. That's great. So it's a different experience every time you play, I assume.
Right. Yeah. It's different. I reset a lot. That's what I do. It's definitely something you should check out, though. The holes move their RNG, where they're positioned each run. There's you got a menu fast, like line up your shot, your power, and everything. Decide really fast. It's a aggressive run, but it's really fun.
Junkyard Dave, I wish that wind functions like that in IRL. You can speed run golf in real life if that happened, right? You could be great.
Right. Yeah, you should give Daisuke a try. It's actually a broadcast to teleview game.
Okay.
Super Famicom.
So there's only a ROM I gotta get, I assume.
I have a real cart, but it's a real cart of a ROM dumped onto a cart.
Oh, got it. Cool.
Somebody made a cart. I was like, I gotta own this. You know how it is.
Of course. I didn't used to have the collecting bug until I started speedrunning. And now it's like, I just want to own those carts that I'm playing. So
yeah, give it a try for sure. There's 6 courses. We've ran 2 of them so far. Every time Hayo, one of the other runners, every time he puts up a course time, I go back and just beat his time. I'm like, ha ha ha. I've been doing that to him. We kind of went back and forth on
okay, so this whole competitive thing is just you being an asshole. Is that what this is?
Yeah, it could be.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. That's actually one of the things I've really enjoyed about your speedruns is how, first of all, you've gone back to games so that it's like, you know, the competitive thing. I really dig that a lot, actually. I think it makes the speedrun better, if you ask me, and the leaderboard and the competition.
Yeah, I love competition. I love being competitive. It's something I grew up with, you know. Being competitive with brothers and sports and all sorts of stuff. That's just how I am. Even today, playing like disc golf and stuff, me and my friends are like friendly competitive, where we're competitive and we'll talk crap. But at the same time, if somebody has a good shot or does something awesome, they're just like, yeah, awesome, dude. Wow. You know,
Epic has the ND gene. Well, speaking of that competitive gene, and by the way, that's how one of the ways I think is a really especially friendly and positive competition is a really good way to better yourself, whether it's speedrunning or just your approach to your career or whatever. I think it can be really healthy. I know it's kind of a fine line at times because it could lead to they can lead to some things, but I find it really a healthy type of thing and helpful in life.
Yeah, for sure.
But speaking about that competition, so I'm going to do a quick plug for Retrothon coming up in April, and that is because we will be doing some races. We are racing Fushigi no Yumi no Alice.
I guess you better get that sub 14 soon. Then,
it's going to have to grind. I was thinking I'm going to wait till April, but I might have to return to the game sooner because I'm going to need a sub 14 to be competitive. And then also
my muscle memory.
It's just in there. It's ingrained in the thing.
I'll still grind it down a little bit, but I need to reform muscle memory.
Bring it back. And then Legend of Hirotomo as well.
I like consistency especially when I race. I still got to decide what to do with Tonma, because being consistent in that game is something else without dying.
The consistent strats I found led to my sub 6 run in that game, but I had to do some risky strats to get the sub 6. So
that's too safe.
Yeah,
it's too safe. Are too safe. No,
not competitive enough, not fast enough.
But yeah, we have that going on. I actually have something I'm going to start up after Retrothon. I won't say what yet.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's just a heads up. I have something I'm planning to reboot after Retrothon.
Ooh, that's not a tease. I don't know what it is. So where can people find you on the internet or on streaming? Where should people find you?
Twitch with my name.
It is EpicNeonNinjaMonkey. All one word.
I have a YouTube. I don't generally upload too much to it unless somebody's like, hey, can you explain this to me? And like I made a Do-Re-Mi tech video, ladder tech video for some people that were running the game a bit.
And that's one thing I wanted to point out as well. And I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. Also, Epic has done a bunch of work on Fushigi no Yume no Alice, and that's on the speedrun.com leaderboards. Like you've done a fair amount of, I mean, basically it sounds like your Notepad Plus is a lot of the things that end up on the internet. That's so cool.
Yeah. I try to document or take notes on what I do for anybody future looking into it. And I'm always willing to help anybody if I know something they don't, you know.
That was one of the things I noticed right away when I stopped by your stream is asking questions. You are very, you're able to talk it through and talk it out and show actually what's supposed to be happening, which is not an easy thing to do, folks, especially while you're trying to run the game and stuff like that. So I really appreciated that right off the bat that you were able to you put all those resources out there. Like everyone should have access to this stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think it should be a communal thing, you know, not, oh, I'm going to keep the secret strat so I can beat you. No, I want a fair fight. Let's go.
Yeah. And let's make it a level playing field, right? Because that goes through the way that you approach, man, the execution.
Exactly. I love execution. RNG is not my friend.
The hell with RNG.
Exactly.
Well, if you really want to see some top quality speedruns, check out Epic's speedrun.com profile, because it's all of the runs most of the runs are very well executed. Like the Gumpo one, it was obviously something you were just playing around with, and it's not something you've returned to since. But all the games that he basically has world record in, they're and there's a bunch. they're really well executed. So
like 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe 4. If you look at that C64 game on there, actually, too, that's another story with a friend.
What game is that?
That's on Twitch. It's Abbe something, Death to Abbey. It's something like that. That's what it translates to.
Okay. Oh yeah.
It's a C64 game.
Yeah.
But somebody I know is like, oh, dude, I did really good at this game. Look at his time, then look at mine. I'm like, oh, really? I got this. Don't worry. I had to play that in emulator, unfortunately, because I didn't have another way to play it at the time. I have a Mister now, which could play it.
Oh yeah. Okay, so here's the real lesson from this whole interview is that don't tell Epic that you have a good time in anything.
Nah, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
It's particular. You can't trigger it. It's got to be a thing.
For real.
You'll never know my secrets.
Dude, there's going to be a future episode on the Mister, because there's a lot of interesting things happening with it, and I find it fascinating. C64 is being apparently emulated, not emulated, but it's got a really great core for it. Yeah,
for sure. It's a very cool device for anything 16-bit and under.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, dude, thank you so much for taking the time and talking through a lot of this stuff. I really appreciate the games, obviously, that you've suggested. It hasn't steered me wrong yet, although I'm never going to play Darkwing, just letting you know. But
oh, man, come on.
Dude.
See what you can do.
I don't know if I want to put myself through that.
There's puzzles after each stage you get to solve. You get to pick up pieces and put them in order.
Is that really the big selling point?
Yeah, absolutely. It's better than the platforming.
Well, that's a good point.
The bosses are actually really fun in that game, getting the quick kills on them.
Cool.
Getting stuck in their hitbox.
You know, it's funny because I haven't actually watched. I did watch your world record on this. That's right, I did. But maybe I'll go back and take a look at it.
Another funny thing about that is there's 3 puzzles, right?
Yeah.
The third puzzle, it can auto lock. Like, so when you beat the stage, the pieces are in random spots. It's RNG. Well, there is a way that sometimes it happens where the pieces fall automatically into the right spots. If that happens, it skips a cutscene. So
for no apparent reason,
that out too. It skips about a 20-second cutscene.
Oh man! See, that actually kind of sounds interesting to me, but then again, you have to play the whole game to get to that point. But whatever.
It's not that bad. You just hold right or left and jump.
Do it. I'll take your word for it.
Look, it has built-in input lag. You got this.
Well, thanks again, dude. I really do appreciate it. And everyone, go follow Epic on Twitch, because you'll see some really awesome speedruns there. I promise. Thanks, man.
No problem, man.
Thanks everyone for listening and watching. If you're enjoying the podcast, subscribe, leave a review. All those things go a long way to helping out the podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I'm on Twitter @LatMackey, or you can also join the LatMackey Discord, where we have a sequence break channel. We talk about guests, we have questions. It's really interactive, really fun. Please feel free to stop on by. Thanks so much. See you in the next one.